Hello, everybody. We're in our writers' meetings with Rav Dr. Laitman. Dr. Laitman, hello, everyone. Judy, we would like to talk about one of the painful results of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's the financial crisis, the second round of unemployment. And for that, we have written down a few questions that we would like to ask and present the answers to the public. Guy Tzchakov. Hello, Rav. As you expected, the coronavirus pandemic has not disappeared. The second wave is very strong. Restaurants are closing in Israel. Event halls are closing, and expectation is that unemployment will grow. It's already growing. And tomorrow, there will be a new economic plan in order to cope with this situation. It has not been published completely, but from what has been said, that there will be unemployment for a very long time. There's going to be help for the self-employed people, and the Bank of Israel has recommended that they will continue to support as long as there's two-digit unemployment, that they will continue to pay unemployment benefits. And the economic department has said that it depends on this mutual guarantee responsibility, where we will feel responsible for the employees and employers, and that they will continue throughout this period to help those who have been impacted by the coronavirus. So our first question is, what's your opinion on this, Dr. Laitman? It's a shame that they used even paper to write this down. They either don't understand or they're making it as if they don't understand. What do they think will happen in a year? They themselves say that the coronavirus won't pass. This is staying with us. Now, we need to learn how to live with the situation we currently have. It might even get worse as we see this trend growing. So what will it help them to pay people these unemployment benefits who are meant to be employed but they're not able to work? They need to have a new plan. They need to have conditions for the unemployment benefits. They need new conditions. They need to set these new conditions for the new world. Guy Tzchakov, what are the new conditions? Dr. Laitman, that there is no compensation. I'm not responsible for the coronavirus, and I'm not compensating people who are harmed by the coronavirus. We need to set conditions for a new society, new policies. Even if it takes 5, 10 years, we need to... I don't know where they're planning to take the money already, but the approach seems that the money's going to run out. And that's not clear to me. What do they mean that it's going to take 1 year? On the other hand, they also say it might take longer. On the other hand, they're making a plan as if it's going to end tomorrow. Guy Tzchakov, in regards to where the money is coming from, there's two things. The government will increase the debt that they're in. They're going to allow themselves to be in a bigger minus. They're also talking that the budget for 2021 will have very big cuts. They will have less money for many public projects, and they might even raise taxes. Currently, the plan is that whoever is working will get a lot less in order to subsidize those who are not working. So it's not only that there is no one working, but even those who are working will be having their money taken from them. Dr. Laitman, this seems so unjust. It seems like they're not looking at it clearly. It's really an unhealthy view. Let's take, for example, that I have a restaurant and I need to close it. Yeah. How much am I going to get for this? Each and every month I'm going to get compensation, right? Why? Why is a question? Dr. Laitman, all of the self-employed people are getting a compensation. And everyone who's working for him, even in some small job, is also going to get this compensation. Where is the money going to come from? Where are they getting the money to compensate them? In 1 year, the country is going to be very weak. And what will happen from that? We want to see that we are getting stronger all the time. And here, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. How can we get stronger in this kind of situation? Dr. Laitman, but this plan I don't agree to. How? I will say, in the hat of economists, that the people need to live from something. Dr. Laitman, first of all, they had a business, right? They were, some side, and you need to check all those things on the side. And it depends, what does it mean? This is really disgusting. They are burying themselves. The government, the state, all of the ministers and elected officials are just burying themselves, and they don't understand. It seems like they're saying that they're saying the right things, that it's going to stay, there's not going to be a future without it, that we won't need these certain professions and businesses, that people will need to forget about working in this way and flying to all the different places and have all of these events and to be able to go to restaurants all the time. They say this, but on the other hand, they say it, and then they want to continue paying for these people on the country's budget. Stupid. Gaitzrakov, I understand something a bit different. As a government, I closed your business. Dr. Laitman, no, this is from the pandemic. Not the government that closed it. Gaitzrakov, but I gave the order to close the restaurants. Dr. Laitman, the government is not doing anything. They are just reacting to the situation. There's a big difference here. Gaitzrakov, but the government has a responsibility to the nation. Dr. Laitman, but to what extent? Gaitzrakov, that's the question. In this regard, it's not the first time that we're hearing this. We're always talking about the self-employed. Well, let's take, for example, the unemployment benefits for the employees. And they're receiving the unemployment benefits for a year. You usually don't talk about them. You usually go straight to the restaurants and the event halls. Dr. Laitman, self-employed is self-employed. It depends what kind of compensation. It depends what kind of compensation. If he will receive as an employee, that's okay. That's one thing. According to my nature, I am socialist. It can't be that there will be such a big difference between the restaurant owner or the business owner who lived very well throughout their entire life and they don't know how much they have on the side. and the worker who paid all of the taxes. That's the difference. So there is a socialist side to this. Dr. Laitman, I don't care if it's socialist. I think that they all need to receive a certain amount that will allow them to live, that they'll be able to live. But no more than that. And in that sum, there can't be a gap between the business owner, the restaurant owner, or the employee who worked for him. So if I understand you correctly, it's not the unemployment benefits, it's the difference between the different people who are receiving it. Dr. Laitman, yes, of course. How can it be if I'm sitting at home with a family and my employee who worked for me is also sitting at home with his family? How can it be that I get more than him? Duty, yes. No, many people responding to this. Why are self-employed people getting benefits, compensation? Because workers at the government are also receiving. Because they decided to close everything down. Now the people aren't working. Dr. Laitman, let's not get into all these arguments. We have a blow from above, and we all need to accept it. We need to bow down to this blow, that we need to close these businesses because these businesses spread the coronavirus, and everyone needs to receive enough to satisfy they will be able to eat and sustain themselves. There's another point here, an economic point. A person who's sitting at home for a long period of time, it really impacts his self-esteem. Dr. Laitman, I'm not even talking about that. The government aren't thinking about the future on that at all. How do you see what people are going through internally? That they may receive this unemployment benefits, but they don't have anything to do. Dr. Laitman, after a few months, you'll see that they won't have anything to do. They won't be ready for any kind of work. They won't be able to do it. You will need to now teach them. You will have to give them all kind of volunteering that they can do. They can go and work in agriculture. They can work in cleaning. They need to go and do all sorts of work that the government can obligate them to do. So the decadence will be really high if they just stay at home. Dr. Laitman, that is a disaster. We all know that. If you place a hand on a table and you don't move it, it just... Together with this whole salad, this whole mess, there's the forecast that 250,000 new immigrants will come to Israel. Economically, this sounds like they're adding a crisis onto a crisis. But Laitman, why? Because you're coming to a country where people don't have work, and you'll all of a sudden need to also pay them unemployment benefits. Dr. Laitman, why does the government need to promise this? Why does it need to be responsible for them? Do you see this action of absorbing the new immigrants as something positive or negative? Dr. Laitman, it's an action, not negative or positive. We need to think, can the country do this? Or by this, do we need to just close the country? If it was you, would you receive new immigrants? Dr. Laitman, depends on the conditions. What are the conditions? Dr. Laitman, under the condition that I'm capable of seeing the benefit to it and not the loss. Why do I need to receive 1 million Jews from all over the world? What does it mean that a new immigrant has a benefit or a loss? What does it mean? Dr. Laitman, how is it all over the world? with a French, let's say, or someone from Canada that wants, or a Canadian wants to go back to France. Yeah. France promises to absorb him, to give him a place to live, some compensation. Do they have this department to absorb people? Guy Tzchako, they have to take care of themselves. Dr. Laitman, where else do they have such a condition where they want to absorb people like this? Guy Tzchako, Canada has it, someone. Dr. Laitman, Canada, yeah, because they want people to spread out throughout the large area. Guy Tzchako, in regards to anti-Semitism, you said that the nation of Israel will need to absorb people. Dr. Laitman, these are all spiritual terms. Don't take it into economics. You're an economist. Dr. Guy Tzchako, so not to mix these things up, Dr. Laitman, I would legislate a new law that there will be many Jews that will be against it. That we have a new law that only if they receive, if they're allowed to enter the country, they're allowed to come and immigrate. We're caring for the country. We're not caring for each and every Jew around the world that it's unpleasant, it's uncomfortable for them in their current country. The whole government is not the Ministry of Health or the Ministry of Welfare. We don't need to care for each and every one that wants to come here to, in their old age, to grow older and to just be buried here. Duty, we have this law that allows every Jew to come and live in Israel. Dr. Laitman, we had that. And now, with the new conditions, we're not capable. Even with this law. If they want to come, okay. If they come, then there needs to be a condition that they come with money that they're able to cover their costs. Duty. So to understand unemployment, I want for people who are listening to us to understand. I understand that you are against the compensation for the business owner, but you're not against the compensation for the individual. Dr. Laitman, I don't understand what you're talking about. The wisdom of Kabbalah says one thing. According to investment, the exertion, the labor, there needs to be compensation, and that's just. It can't be any other way. If you deserve it, you deserve it. If not, not. It is very clear. You can even say that it's a very capitalistic. Where will they take this from? Can you go to the government and demand that now, after I saved, after I left all of these things in the bank, and maybe I also have another home, and I want to receive something when I come to this country? Today, I'm talking about people who work and live in this country, not new immigrants. Recompensating a person as an individual. It doesn't matter if they're a business owner, a restaurant owner, or an employee. Dr. Laitman, yes, we have to check what they had and see what their situation is. They can't receive more than others. They can't. Duty, and that's just? Dr. Laitman, yes, that's just in my eyes. Why do I need to compensate him for what he had? I'm giving him in order to cover his costs, so that he'll be able to help with his family, with his children. Let's say everything burnt down. He has nothing left. So I need to care for him so that he'll have food and a roof over his head. Of you. This discussion, from what I understand, has two parallel lines. On one hand, there are questions that Guy Yitzchakov is asking, that they're trying to preserve the current state and what we had before. Dr. Laitman, what are we not realistic that we see that we can't? Why are they these fantasies that we'll be able to preserve it? Of you. Okay, so we had what we had, and we are going to a completely new reality. Let's start to change the system accordingly, economically and so on. Dr. Laitman, of course, how could it be any other way? You need to live according to the current conditions and be prepared for the future. In another year, you won't have anything. You won't have anything of what you might have now, where you have a few, some money left. You want to go into overdraft. You want to get into debt to all these international banks. Where will you pay for this later? A few, yeah, because this is an overdraft. This is, they're going into more debt for it. Dr. Laitman, so it's really tying your hands and legs. It's also a political matter. Yes, a view. Well, in this situation, strategically, they would need to start thinking and planning these steps ahead, like you say in the previous programs we had. Dr. Laitman, I want a program that's not for 20 or 10, but for 5 years. Yeah. Okay, a view. Okay, so the plan is that the coronavirus will stay with us for years. Dr. Laitman, it won't even just be Corona, but that the world is not going back to the way it was before. That's it. It's clear to us that there won't be all of the airplanes flying to every place, and all of these people who are doing all these different works that are not needed. And the new generation will not be like the previous generation. The time has passed. We need to see the future as different than what we had in the past. It's not going to be the same as 30 years ago. You can't build something according to how it was previously. A view. So, in this same foresight, and that they're starting to plan, what do they need to do? Dr. Laitman, you need to hire people who understand what the future is going to be like, and not these bank managers who are just looking out for themselves, and these self-employed and business owners and lobbyists who are just caring for themselves. A view. Okay, so I need to start planning a plan that will look at it a bit more socialist, like you said, that we will need to provide a basic income for everyone and start an educational plan. It's not that you're against the unemployment benefits, you just don't think it's good to try and go back to the way it was before. Dr. Laitman, I'm also against the unemployment benefits. I don't want to call it unemployment benefits. That's it. Very simple. I want to give them an income for the work. For the work that they are doing, that they will participate in education, that they will all participate in improving our relations, that they will add to social values, that we will be even able to measure it. Only under that condition, if they are willing and agreeing and working on this, do we provide them an income, that we see a benefit from it and not a loss. That's it. Otherwise, no. No, I'm not interested in keeping a person alive just because they have an ID in this country.
No. If
we don't do this, it will be worse. It will get a lot worse because you're going against the laws of nature. That's it. If it's good for you this way, do it. I'm not playing with you. Yitzchakov, there's two problems here. First, it is important to say that the nation of Israel in the last few days have been responsible with their budget. They are thinking about the budget, about the economy. And Israel's economy is doing quite well compared to other countries. The other thing that's problematic in this talk to sit down and think are just unpractical. You can't plan anything when you don't have any foundations for the future. It's nice to think that we should sit down at a round table and talk, but we don't have any foundation for the future. Dr. Laitman, there's one foundation. The coronavirus is not going away for a year. What are you going to do? Okay, give me numbers, how much money you need to waste on those people who are, that are now unemployed and will be unemployed, and more who will come from abroad as new immigrants. Give me numbers and explain to me where you're taking the money. And then how you plan on giving back this money. Guys, I'm assuming they made this calculation and that's why they made this plan. It's not a plan that they planned on having, it's something that they're going to present because they know we're going to have the coronavirus for a year, and they made these calculations. They decided that they need to give these and those conditions and compensation. I just don't understand the alternative that we need to present. Dr. Laitman, this second part, we want to keep it as something positive, a positive force that the nation will have. But if they sit at home, what are they going to do? They're going to kill their family members. They're going to do I don't know what with their children. I don't know what they're going to do when you're at home. If you don't give a person something to do, even if it costs you to organize this work, and if you don't give a person work, something to do, and you don't obligate the compensation according to his work, you'll have, I don't even know what to call it, you won't have a country, you won't have a nation. It'll be something you can't even describe. There's another problem. We are a productive country. All of our GDP comes from producing. Dr. Laitman, that's another topic. That's on the agenda because that's part of our GDP. Dr. Laitman, other than education, that's the most important. We need education. Of you. What Dr. Laitman is talking about is that we need to plan for the future already. But we can't plan for the future if you don't have the foundations for the future. Dr. Laitman, what foundations do you need? For the future, you need to make a plan for the future. Okay, so you have Corona for a year, but there are other conditions that you need to take into account. And say that we have these pillars, the foundation that we need to have. Otherwise, it's just nice words. We need to plan for this. What is the future that we foresee? What's the foresight here? Dr. Laitman, that there's not going to be anywhere to work. What are you trying to say? Do you think that you have something else? I'm trying to say that I'm not talking about your plan. I am saying that if you don't do something with these people who are not going to have work, they're unemployed now, they're available, and they will just become beasts. You need to place them somewhere. You need to give them something to do. It may cost you more, but you are protecting the nation. You're watching over them. You're keeping them, maintaining them. Last question. I know the way this system, I say that people who make the decisions, they're not able to think outside of the box. They have a very small box of what they think. You know this very well. Where will this mind, this intellect come from where they'll be able to be more creative and they'll think about these things? Do you even think this can happen? Dr. Laitman, I don't see these kind of people in the government. Guy Tzchakov and somewhere else? Dr. Laitman? No, there's a problem here. There really is a problem. And still, we need to write, but I don't know what will help. I don't know what will help you. It is clear to us. It's clear to us that the current direction is ruin. Ruin for the nation, ruin for the society, ruin. Guy Tzchakov, by telling people that we are going in the wrong direction, is there something that it's preparing the people? What's the message that we need to send out? We need to do something. What's the message that you want to send out? Dr. Laitman, social unity. Social unity is what will help us. When you come out of this capitalistic economy, it's over. It's been over for a while, but let's say now that we've dragged it along until now, and it's all over now. It's over. And that's why we need to see the next form.
Oleg, שומע? אינטרנט טוב?
Oleg?
Oleg, שומע? אתה יכול לשאול?
Oleg, can you hear us? Can you ask? As a writer, I need to explain this to people. And I need to tell them that the unemployment benefits and that they're paying everyone is not the solution. We need to feel it as an income, and we need to do something with it, right? Dr. Laitman, yes. Oleg. Okay, so when I write about this, when you obligate someone from the nation to do some kind of work because there's no other work, in order to receive this income, as we said a few minutes ago, this person will feel himself as a slave because he's receiving minimum for hard work that he doesn't want to do, compared to others who are working with more honor. Dr. Laitman, I don't think it'll be that different in the income that they receive. I think the whole economy is falling. The whole economy is going down.
Shelley, בבקשה.
Shelley, please. If this plan is implemented and they pay people and they compensate them, they compensate the self-employed and the unemployed, how do you see the nation in another year? Dr. Laitman, which plan are you talking about? Shelley, the plan that Guy Tzchakov presented that's probably going to be implemented tomorrow, that's going to compensate the self-employed and the employed, or the unemployed. Dr. Laitman, I think in a year it's going to be a ruin. There will be no law. There's no law. There's no order. People will just be in anarchy. The families will be in ruin. And the coronavirus will be really just going wild. And the young generation and the elder generation, without placing a person in work and in a fear that he has a responsibility, an obligation, you will see us worse than those criminals who live on the outskirts of cities and just... Shelley, so you say we will get to the lowest, most despicable place in order to start thinking about what we really need to do? Dr. Laitman, we will get to a horrible state. Because there is a spiritual state above us that if we get farther away from it, if we don't do steps towards it, then it just all ends. It all ends. That's it. Shelley, and then we'll have the intellect to do something about it. Dr. Laitman, I don't know. Only Creator above us knows. I see it very negatively right now. Shelley, same topic, but in a different approach. People are... This is a big hit on the ego. The ego of the nation was in a car accident. They were working, they were doing great work that they thought that, it's so wonderful, they could have been an actor, and all of a sudden, do you think this was on purpose to have this blow to the ego? Dr. Laitman, that is the essence of the plan. Usually all of these actors and all of these stage people were going to be waiters at restaurants, and now they don't even have restaurants. They'd perform on the streets, and now they also don't have that. They don't have. Shelley, why am I asking? Because usually our conversations before Corona had to do with the ego that kept on growing. Do you see that this is putting the brakes on the ego? How do you see this impacting the ego? Dr. Laitman, it's impacting the ego in a way that a person needs to straighten it out, needs to listen more. What the person needs to do in order to be more sensitive to what we're talking about. That's what I hope. Maybe not at first, but at first they will be like a small child that they want it this way and that way. But then, out of necessity, from the stress of life, from the wife, from the children, I hope that we will be able to open some courses. Something. An educational system. Not from the government, but from us. And to disseminate, and people who don't have anything else, and they'll be able to hear and listen about the way things are going to be. Shelley, so we'll have many small courses that have to do with these most essential topics to the person, about family, about so on. Dr. Laitman, Israel has no less problems in this than others. It's clear to us that with connection, we clean ourselves of all the problems. We organize for ourselves the whole path forward, connection between us. That's it. It's something relatively easy. It's clear that it's written down. It's in the Torah. It's written down in many places. And that's what we need. That's what we need to do. Duty, and what do we as an organization need to do? What can we do to help? It's not money, it's not food, not these big plans for the whole nation. Dr. Laitman, no, it's not food and money. That's the other organizations and the government. We need to do education. We are focused on education. We need to open all these courses and really have this round of dissemination. No, yes, we are a Kabbalah organization. So what kind of courses do you see? Integral education according to Kabbalah? What do you see? Dr. Laitman, integral education according to Kabbalah. Yeah, as we learn, we see that it will be according to the level of the people participating, but we need to talk about it. Adhere to the sources. Normal, we're going to be talking about individuals, or is it going to be about different topics that are interesting to the individuals? Dr. Laitman, according to different topics, according to different ages. Yeah, and it'll all be through the internet. It won't be like what we have right now. Right now, we are turning to people who supposedly have a point in the heart. But here we see how people just come and leave. We need to open up courses that explain about the world, about the laws of nature, and how we will advance without work, but we will do it with connection.
זאת אומרת, רק הסברה. הסברה שמסבירה טבע העולם.
Duty. So, dissemination, where we're going to explain how the laws of nature work.
פיצוי כספי או לא, זאת אומרת,
We're not talking about compensation yet, but Dr. Laitman, no, not compensation. We're not going to be talking about God either. We're just talking about nature and what nature demands from us. And by not adhering to the laws of nature, we have all of these phenomena like the coronavirus that come and try to set us straight.
סליחה, נורמות רגע, המודעות של הפצה כזאת,
So in this kind of dissemination,
כי אנחנו לא מצליחים ממש להגיע
we're not really succeeding at disseminating this and having people hear this. It's not something people want to hear. Dr. Laitman, the air wants to hear what will help. How many people are looking on the internet right now, all over the world, some kind of remedy that will help them? How many people? So that they'll look for this, and they'll see this, and they'll listen.
נורמה.
Norma. The basic income that they're talking about for studies, and it won't be compensation for the unemployed. It'll be a basic income for studying. Dr. Laitman, doesn't matter if he had a restaurant or if he was a simple employee. Now he's studying and receiving, let's say, 5, 6, 700,000, 5, 6, 7,000 shekel, around average income. This won't. The nation needs to pay for it. Dr. Laitman, yes. So the nation needs to pay. Dr. Laitman, no, we're not demanding anything. We are a non-profit organization, so we won't be demanding anything. It depends on the services that we have to provide.
Henry
David is asking, nature said we need to live off of each other. Now, what does nature want from us? Dr. Laitman, there will be new spiritual sources of income. By connecting with each other, we will be able to draw the reforming light, and by that, we are filling ourselves. And by that, all of a sudden, we see that we will also see sources of income. No one would have thought that from a gram of material, there will be enough energy to blow up this earth, like with the atomic bombs. Here too, we don't know how from this small spark of light there will be this whole new existence. The whole new existence. Like with the Big Bang, this small little spark, and you see what happened. We don't know what's happening. Duty, what is this spiritual source of income, Dr. Laitman? That we are doing actions that are spiritual between us towards connection, and we will have what we need. We will have what we need. We won't need to work on these hard labor works. It will just come easily. Duty, we will connect, and then what? There'll be an endless amount of food and water. Dr. Laitman, I can't explain it to you now, similar to how I couldn't explain 200 years ago how a little box will be able to blow up an entire city.
Sivan.
Sivan, from these discussions about the discussions that are happening in these government offices, if a person hears these headlines and they understand that there's going to be a very hard year, what can a simple person do? What can they do so that they can just get through this year in the most the best way possible without thinking about whether or not they will give him money? What can they do? Dr. Laitman, they need to be part of our study. They'll understand that it's not going back after a year to what we had before. It's an entrance into a new life. Not just to a new life, a new world. There isn't what we had before. It's simple. We don't have it anymore. We need to process that we don't have it anymore. We are already in this new world. And you need to explain this. You need to explain this to everyone. We need to explain what's happening and that we're not going back. Sivan. Okay, I understand. So we're going to have a new world. Dr. Laitman, it's going to work on a whole new energy, on new relations, on new people. It's all new to such an extent that we will see it as new. Sivan, an awareness of this. How do I live with this now that I need to be able to sustain my children? And Dr. Laitman, we will need to adapt ourselves to this new situation. First of all, that it all depends on the connection between us, whether or not we want it. We will learn how to do this. We will do it ourselves and we'll teach others. And this comes from dissemination. And by that, we will be able to advance. It all comes from the spiritual source of income and not from the corporeal income. We will labor in spirituality and we will get an income. What will sustain us this year is a person who is able to internally feel the spiritual essence of what they're doing. And a person who continues to live in this world will only feel themselves descending, going down. Dr. Laitman, they won't be able to continue. They will get such agonies that they will have to change. There will be those who change by the blows, and there are those who change from good and are drawn to it themselves. Do the Amara. The question is, what is the education? Do we just have to raise people's awareness, or do we need deeper changes? Dr. Laitman, the person himself will change. It's not so hard for a person to do this, because it is a general blow. It's not even national, it's international, it's global. And that's why soon it will come to people's awareness. You'll see that there's going to be more fires, there's going to be other blows from the coronavirus that's as worse than before, and it's going to happen in the autumn and the winter, and you'll see what happens. It's all coming from the Creator according to all these different directions. He's setting these new conditions. Amara, what changes do we want to see in people? How much change? Dr. Laitman, change that they'll see how it all depends on the good connection with others. Their attitude. That's it. That's it. First of all, that. The Americans have already started on that. Exactly. We want to move from Israel to America. One end, please. Okay, so we have prepared a few questions. We would like to talk about some things that are happening in America. It seems like things are a lot worse. People are really closer to lacking food. The compensation is about to end in the 31st of July, and they don't see any solution. They're going to have a lot of evictions, and most of America were on renting their apartments, and they'll be evicted. And people's health care was tied to their employment. So many people are going to lose their healthcare policies, their healthcare coverage. And Trump is still continuing to cancel the single-care healthcare by the Obamacare. And more people will lose their healthcare coverage. And in the meantime, the two parties are just busy on the elections. They're arguing and fighting each other over the election. And nothing is happening. In the meantime, there's also all of the slandering going on. And the small businesses are suffering, and the big businesses, as usual, are doing well. And the young generation is suffering the most. They have the most hardship ahead of them. They will have to live with their parents. They won't have any income. They're really in despair. That's why my first question is, in light of all of this, what do you expect to happen in America? Dr. Laitman, they're going to close down the country. And they're going to close it down because in their current capitalistic state, they won't be able to continue. They won't be able to continue. Their laws are completely opposite to the nature of the last generation. That's why it's not America. It's the behind of the world, the Choraim. Will the government, will anyone be able to do something to stop this catastrophe? Dr. Laitman, no. No one will allow them to do it. There are a few people who are holding on to it, who hold on to resources, to assets, and they will not, they're holding on to all of the capital, and they will not let that happen. What will happen? I don't know. I don't know what the Creator will do with such a country. I don't know. Could be that it'll by revolution. It could be a group of people who are enlightened, who understand what's happening. Otherwise, there'll be major disaster that really threatens the whole globe. Ronen, do you think that there will be enough of change, or will the government try and suppress it? Dr. Laitman, I don't think that the United States of America are capable of connecting against the state. No, they're not able to do it. I don't feel it. I don't understand it. It's not what I understand will happen. They won't be able to do it that way. Because everything that can happen there will cause such ripples in the rest of the world. That it will be really the end of times. That same young generation that we were talking about, it's not a small generation, it's many millions who are called millennials. It's the biggest generation in America. And most of them support social democracy. But they have been really pushed aside. They're not coming into any expression. What would you say to them? Dr. Laitman, I don't have any solutions to what you're asking. Don't have the answers. You can ask questions about all these different things in different corners of the United States of America, and I don't have it. It's not in my perception. It's not in my view. The change will come from understanding that love will cover all transgressions. Between these people and those people, it doesn't matter. They don't lack all of these gaps between different groups. When they need to implement this and they start to see and discuss, then it'll be something else. But as I know the United States of America, I don't know it that well, especially not from the inside, but it doesn't seem like they're capable of it. There's a good reason why the Jews are escaping. Norma, a question about the plan for the basic income for studying. Is this something that we can use in every country, every society, even for a nation as large as the United States? Our studies, Dr. Laitman? Norma, this solution that people won't be in hunger. Dr. Laitman, yes, of course. Of course. I am sure, I am certain that each and every country today is able to satisfy food for people to really sustain themselves. They're able to do this. And they can. We just need to send them to do some work in the agricultural fields. They need to do something. And today we have the infrastructure for each and every country to satisfy the sustenance for their whole population. Normal. What will be the conditions? Dr. Laitman needs to build cheap accommodations. We can do it. Each country can do it. They just need to concentrate on it and accept it as the national plan. Norma, what's the condition that this will happen, that it will be realistic? Dr. Laitman, it will be realistic if they understand that there's no other way. That they will clean their heads of all these theories of the economists and professors, that they'll understand what's happening. I am adhered to the writings of Baal Sulam. That's why I have no problem. I accept body rights. Because this is a person who's in a spiritual degree above me, and that's why he's my guide. I just have one problem. When's it going to happen? Is it today? Is it tomorrow? Is it in 10 years? Is it in longer? But it's getting there. We are right now in the start of that plan. That's why we need to see how it will be implemented and go together with nature. How can it be that this plan will be suitable for Israel and for America that are in completely different situations with completely different problems? Dr. Laitman, why? What's so different? These are people, and they are people. These are pieces of protein, and they are pieces of protein over there. These are pieces of egoists here, and they are egoists there. Each one needs to overcome the ego, and then they will catch the upper force, the upper light that connects them. And from that, they will be able to see the new life. They'll see a new world. They'll see an inverse world. You need to disconnect a bit from your corporeal approach that is only in this world. So what is the remedy? So what are these different remedies? Dr. Laitman, I want a remedy that people will be able to enter this educational system. Whoever is unemployed will be able to enter these educational systems, and by that, they will come to understand the current situation, and they will know how to prepare for this new state. And by that, they'll be ready for the new world. I don't want some treatment by surgery or all these other sharp ways. And it won't even be my medicine. Just rest a bit. Have a bit of a diet. And that's it. That's what we're recommending to people of our generation.
Okay,
we have to finish now, according to the schedule. So the last question that I received here from Nessie, he's asking, every time that we go out as writers or others who are listening to the program right now, when we come out at this writers' meeting, we're a bit frightened. We don't know what's going to happen with the future. Is that part of the correction? Dr. Laitman, I don't think that you need to come out of this conversation frightened. I have been teaching you the prophecy of the Baal Salam, how he was talking about the future, how it was going to be implemented, how it was going to happen. I don't see a problem. We were talking about it. We were practicing for this. We were training for this for years. Why does this need to be... Why does this need to confuse you? Why does this need to be perplexing? I don't understand. What are you missing? What are you lacking to understand his method? And it's not his method, it's the method of nature. And we see how it's happening now. It's clear. The philosophy, the prophecy of Baal Salam. Dr. Laitman, the world needs to come back to being one. It's one unique, that it'll be one people as Adam Rishon. That it'll all be in a circular nature. One sphere where everyone's included with each other. And that's the way it needs to be. And we are approaching this. And we now need to step forward to this. We need to make these steps forward. Let's try and do it. Judy, we will try and we will continue on Friday. It was a very interesting discussion. We will prepare the questions for next time and we'll continue. Thank you very much, Dr. Laitman. Thank you very much to all our friends. All the best.